Fight Podcast. I am Lieutenant Colonel Nick Behringer. We got a blast from the past today. We have got Master Sergeant retired AC Bryant on the show. Very, very excited about this because I want to go back to when I met you.
Okay.
We're gonna go all the way back. I think it was now that I think about it, I was gonna say Iraq.
No, it was Fort Bragg.
It was Fort Bragg, right? So it's Bragg. Well, do we meet in Bragg or do we meet at now it's Louisiana, Fort Polk?
No,
you weren't at Polk.
I was never at Polk.
You were never.
I had just PCS from Germany, and I had got there July. I had my son with me, and he was not even 2 yet. And so we had just got into housing, and everybody was telling me, "Oh, you're a single dad. You're not getting deployed. It's not going to happen." And then September came, and it was like, "You're getting deployed." So whenever it is, and then we start getting the Profis people and everything, and that's when I got a chance to meet you and Captain Stancorp and the whole team at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, because you weren't for the JRTC rotation, and so we're 28th Cash China Dragons.
28th Cash
right?
China Dragons.
And we deploy. You were so Mike. You want to talk about that? Why did you do
food
nutrition?
service. Well, recruiters never lie. They listen. This is truth. They never lie. They just answer the questions that you ask, and if you don't know the questions to ask, right?
Fair.
So I get there at the time. So I was pretty good at track, and I was supposed to be going to an HBU called Perry View A&M for track and field on a partial scholarship. And so I'm sitting there and I'm talking to the guy, this recruiter, and he talks to me about. He's like, "Oh, the Army has track." I was like, "It does." And then he's like, they get paid? I was like, "They get paid?" And at the time I had my girlfriend, which we're no longer with, and they were like, "You love her, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I love her." And he was like, "You know what? They give out free houses." I was like, "What? They give out free houses?" It's true. It's a true story. And so I'm talking with her and whatever it is, and then they were like, "Well, what do you want to do?" Honestly, I've always wanted to be a chiropractor. I wanted to go to after going to school at Perry View A&M. I wanted to go to CTT, which is Chiropractic College of Texas, and they were like, "We got something just like that. We got physical therapy, and then we got it was like a nutritionist. That's what they called it, nutritionist." Yeah. And so I said, "Nutritionist? Huh? What's that?" And I talked to all my teachers. All my teachers was like, "That's a degree, AC. They're gonna give you that in like 9 weeks." I said, "Yeah." They're like, "Go for it." I was like, "All right." So I was like, "You know what? Is this like a dietitian?" They were like, "That's exactly what it's like." So I signed up, and I was like, man, I remember going through AIT. I remember in high school, they had this big banquet of all these people who got scholarships, and at the time it was a $50,000 scholarship that you could get up to, and so they invited me there. Everybody's clapping and they say Brian is going to be a dietitian in the Army. I was like, "Yeah, baby, I ain't never been to college, but I'm gonna knock this out." And I get there, it was slightly different, but I enjoyed it very, very much. I enjoyed. I made it. It ended up being exactly what I wanted it and needed it to be. That's probably the main reason why I met you, because it was like, you can go by 2 lanes. You can stick with the food service portion, or you can really try to venture off and try to learn your craft and become an asset towards fueling soldiers and stuff like that. And that's what I kind of lean towards too.
Right.
Yep.
No, because that was what I remember when I met you. We were talking a little about before we started filming. So we do the train up because Bragg to me was a blur. We were Profis. You get there, you're there like 30 days, and boom, you deploy. With some folks you never met or met shortly. Mm-hmm. And then we get to Ibn Sina, aka Baghdad ER. For the kids that don't know, look up Baghdad ER. And you were just like, you specialist new sergeant. I can't remember.
Yeah. About it been a year.
Yeah, but just super motivated, really fit, and you would actually work with the soldiers, train the soldiers who needed training or something like on your own. Like nobody had to tell you to do it. You were like, all right, they need help or whatever. Yeah. You were kind of the personal trainer of the combat support hospital.
Yeah.
how did that role come about, or was that just something you saw a need and you just went?
So ironically, it kind of leads into where I'm at right now as far as a coach. I had always had this. Everybody's like, I've always had this ability. Whatever it was, I remember in high school working out, and whatever the workout plans was, it just was never working for me. It was like, it's like, man, I'm always getting weaker. I'm always getting weaker during spring training. It's like I'm strong at this point, but everybody else is getting strong, and I'm getting weaker. And I just was like trying new things. I remember there was this book put out by this lady, and she was the strongest lady to ever live, and her husband came out with this workout. So I'm reading books. I don't like to read, but I'm reading books about trying to learn how to become better, and I just started practicing different techniques as far as like different styles of workout. And what happened was it started slowly. It was like a slow burn. Like some people would have the same problem as me, and then they would be like, hey, can we work out with you? And I was like, yeah, come on, let's work out. They would get improvement. Sometimes some things weren't working. They keep getting at it, keep crafting it. And then I joined the military. I'm the dietitian. Everybody's asking me stuff. I'm always working out. And then it just started slowly growing and growing and growing to it was like anywhere I went, to make friends or to understand that this is who I am. It's like I don't do good with, I don't know, whatever. That I had to make a connection through athletics. And so I would go to the gym. I would get people come asking me because it was always like I was always stronger than what I looked, and so people would start gathering, and then from that point on, I had always been working with Special Pops. I remember volunteering to work with Special Pops in Germany because it was like they would be sergeants out there or NCOs or leaders, not just sergeants, leaders that didn't really know what they were doing. They were just doing it just to do it, and I was like, can I volunteer to do this? I really think I can help them. And then it just kept going there from that point on, and then. Everywhere you go, you have to start from scratch when you PCS. And so I would always try to be like that person who would help out people to gain, to get in shape and get ready for the PT test. And that's how I started from there.
And so you did this throughout your career, 20 years?
22.
22 years, retired as a master. But where does boxing come along? Because that's kind of what you're known for now, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's my niche right now. It's like it was in 1999. It was right after It was after track season, right after states, and I was sitting in the cafeteria in Sugarland, Texas, Fort Bend, Austin. Go Bulldogs! Yeah, right, Bulldogs. Huh?
Yeah, I do like some Bulldogs.
And so I'm getting up, and I hear this dude say, "I'm going to boxing practice later. Do you want to go?" Not to me. He was talking to somebody else, and I stopped. And I went over there, and I love this part because it was like this moment was what changed my life forever. It was like I was like, hey, you know where boxing school is at? And he's like, yeah. Some random dude standing next to him who hears a conversation. He's like, yo, why do you know me? I was like, yeah, bro. I really want to learn how to box. Can I do that? Can I come with you? And he's like, yeah. So I get in my El Camino later on after school. I go to practice, and from there, that's all it took. My mom talked about it at one time. I never knew that I was expressing it that way, but she's like, you've always loved fighting. You when you're a little kid, you always thought you were a ninja. You always wanted to like not beat up people, but like wrestle and rough and being boyish. And from that, it just grew. And then so I did 2 weeks of training with this guy before I joined the military. And for 2 years, I did those drills. All by myself. I'm the weird dude in the gym with no punching bag, practicing punching mats on the wall and stuff. And finally, one day in Kitzingen, Germany, I saw a flyer. I was playing basketball. And there were like boxing classes in Kitzingen, which is about 30 minutes away from where I was in Germany. I get off of work. I get on the bus. I go there. I don't pay attention to detail. It's the next day, so it's about an hour plus ride. I get down there. I come back the next day. I get off of work. I go there again, and boxing coach is there. He's like, "Have you ever boxed?" I said, "No." He's like, "Okay, we'll go." And then I show him. I start doing. He's like, "I thought you never boxed." I said, "I've trained for 2 weeks. 2 years ago, I've been doing those same drills for the last 2 years because I don't know what else to do." And less than 2 weeks from the time he was like, well, you're doing good, I had my first fight, knockout in 30 seconds, and from that point on, I was hooked. Yeah.
Wow. And so you were doing that when we were in Iraq, which we were talking about. I didn't even know. Or so you
Oh
were still
no,
smart.
no, I wasn't boxing.
You weren't boxing in Iraq. Okay, I feel better because I was like, I must have missed that because I felt like I knew what was going on in the cat. It was such a small
I try
circle.
My family says I move in secret. They don't even. I just do it and then end up and they're like, "Yo, are you such and such?" And I said, "Yeah." I was working out.
Right, I do remember that.
And again, at the time I'm stronger than what I look. Enough to where these Blackwater dudes came up. This is before they were not illegal to be there. This was like,
no, I remember.
This was wow. This was Wild Wild West back then. So
right.
They came up to me. His name was Josh. I never forget. His name was Josh, and he's like, "Hey, bro, you wanna lift together one day?" And I was like, "Yep, let's lift." So he's lifting with me, and I'm talking to him, whatever it is, and he's like, da da da. He's like, "Yeah, I'm Blackwater. You ever thought about jiu-jitsu?" And I was like, "I did. I know what that is. I've been following that thing called the UFC."
yeah.
Right? And he was like, "Oh, we train all the time. You should come train." And then I trained for them for about a year. And everything that I'm referencing is like the seed that pushed me to where I'm at today. So yeah, it was.
Because for reference for the people listening or watching, this is 2006.
This is about 2006.
This is 2006. So yeah, this is. I remember in Iraq watching. I think it was the second Hughes Pierre fight or so. Yeah, it was like something like that.
Yeah,
so
it was
around that
it
time.
Was.
Remember,
it was,
we had it on, and I remember, So yeah, so it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute. I've been in the game for a little while. Not in the game. I've just been around, and oddly enough, some of the not current, but like Tim Kennedy. I was training with him at Team Rock in North Carolina. And he obviously doesn't remember me, whatever. But we rolled for like a few times and we did some shit together, and then to see him later on.
It's fine.
See some stuff later on down the road, to see him get as big as he. I'm like, yo, I used to train with him. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So it's good. It's to where everything is a slow burn and everything doesn't happen overnight. And to think in 1999, just happened to hear some dude that it would put me where I'm at today in 2023, I would have never thought that. I would have thought I would have been either running track or playing football somewhere else. So I thought I would been out the Army. I wouldn't have been in for 22 years, but it's been an amazing journey, and I wouldn't change one thing, nothing, not even the ups or downs, to change my life. I'm exactly I'm the happiest person I've ever been today, and every day I wake up.
So we're gonna get to modern, to modern day. See, but I do want to so I can paint the picture along the way. So 99, you got to get inspired. Mm-hmm. We're together in Iraq, the Blackwater. You're getting that. You've rolled Kennedy, but you were telling me around 2014, you're here. At JBSA, and now this is when the combatives tournament was huge. Because it's funny you say Tim Kennedy. I remember watching at Benning, I think it was. Him compete, the combatives tournament, like, man, that guy, I think it was against Damian Stelly. I think they had a war. It was wild. So in 2014, you were the striking coach here?
I was a striking coach. There was a great team that was over here. I can't remember everyone's name. Obviously, I know Randy. And
Randy Malakas.
Randy Malakas,
who's still around.
Like a combat Buddha god, because everybody knows him, but he doesn't ever, you know what I'm saying? Everybody kind of knows a little bit about Randy. He's like, there's 8 degrees of separation. With Randy, you're like 2 degrees from knowing anybody,
Right.
And so it was there. I started it, and they were like, I never talk about, like, one sport I never talk about jiu-jitsu, and I'm boxing. I never talk about boxing when I'm doing jiu-jitsu, right? So I'm trying to join the team, and I'm rolling, and one day they're like, hey, we're going to do this all-Army thing. Let's start striking. And I was like, oh, okay then. So I started throwing, and they were like, you can fight? And I was like, oh, yeah, I box too. They're like, what? And so, we're doing whatever it is, and then fast forward maybe like 6 months, there's a new face in the fight house, and they were like, hey man, AC, you think you could train us to get ready for this all-Army? And I was like, yeah. So became the striking coach for there. Still, and competed, lost at the all-Army combatives, but still competed, but was started from there, and then it just kind of grew. There was a first sergeant here at the time, and we put together like a fundraiser. It was all boxing, and we had all the kids around. That was from the neighbor. I think we raised like $2,500 in one night or whatever it is. And so from that, I was just like, I love the sport of boxing. I just love combat sports. And so it's just been sticking with it, slow grind from there. After there, moved to Hawaii, and that's where I really honed in on my boxing, my coaching skills, was because, let me tell you how I became a boxing coach. Because I'm striking coach, but actual like full-time boxing coach. So I'm getting ready for an amateur MMA fight at Cowboys. And
Cowboys here.
Cowboys here.
You see off of 410.
Cowboys here. I'm getting ready. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this.
Yes.
And I got this dude named, he's a good buddy of mine, A-Great. And he was like, man, I know a guy that needs some sparring. He's a boxing, but he needs some sparring. I said, yeah, come on, bring him. So we're training. And while we're training, I'm telling this dude what to do. I'm like, hey, yeah, you shouldn't do that because the people I'm going to be facing are going to be way better. So after we're done sparring, he's like, hey, you want to be my coach? And I was like, no, I don't want to be a boxing coach. I'm getting ready for this MMA fight. I can't coach you and do myself. And then, God speaks to me all the time. So I'm driving home, and he's like, hey, this is what I want you to do. I was like, oh, okay then. So I called the guy back, and I canceled my fight, and I was like, hey, I'll coach you. He ended up being the fighter. It was I think it's his third or fourth fight, whatever it is, but he ended up being the only fighter to win every round that he was in. He won the Golden Gloves for the city of San Antonio, went on somewhere else. He ended up being a two-time All-Army boxer and a Olympic alternative, and he had been trying to get with me ever since then, because he was like, Coach, ever since we worked together, there's always been no one has got me where I needed to be like you. And so moved to Hawaii, started training my sons, and then got my son to where he was a two-time state champion in Hawaii. And from there, it was just like, that was it. That's what I was known for coaching boxing, and that's about it.
So, now you're a coach, which I think is a brilliant, not to take any away from your fighting acumen, but it's definitely a longer career path being a coach over a fighter. Yeah. And there's no shame. And then I do want to circle back. There's no shame in losing the All-Army, because especially back then, like the All-Army had like the Tim Kennedys. I mean, people who fought in UFC and Bellator in those early All-Army tournaments, they were killers.
Yeah, they were.
They were killers in there. So no shame. Respect for competing. But so now you're a boxing coach. But with, can you talk a little bit like Bryant Boxing? Because you're not just a coach. You make some pretty sweet gloves, I've seen. Can you talk how that came about?
Bryant Boxing is, it all started from philanthropy, trying to help people. So I was in Hawaii. This dude reached out to me, and he was like, hey, man, hey, coach, you got any spare equipment we can donate? I was like, no, I don't. Because it was expensive. Equipment is expensive, period. And I don't have a lot, and it's just for my son, right? So I was like, no, man, I don't have a lot. I was being greedy. I was like, no, I don't got any extra stuff I can give. But then I said, but why? What do you mean they need it? And then he showed me this picture of these kids where they were training at. It didn't look like it was America. It looked like it was third world country. It literally, I was like, yo, I have got to do something. And I was like, what can I do? I was like calling these bigger companies, and I was like, maybe I can do this, maybe I can do that. And then one day, this dude on Instagram, he just hit me up randomly. He's like, hey, you want to make gloves? I was like, I do want to make gloves. And so, and from that point on, it just started. And then from around 2015 to today, we've grown to be the largest black-owned boxing apparel company in the world. We're in stores in Australia, Korea, and in a boutique in Dallas. We've been on Fox. They used us in, Daniel Cormier used us in when he was on Tough Enough. He was the head coach there. We've helped. We were on Max's hands before he became the interim champion, and for the majority of his reign as I would say the majority of his reign, you can't see him warm up without a pair of custom Bryant Boxing gloves. And we've got a chance to work with Coach Dewey Cooper, which is a combat sports god. He's not only has he's been a world champion in in boxing, kickboxing, and MMA, but he's also coached world champions in boxing, kickboxing, MMA. He uses our gloves. He uses our mitts. We've been lucky enough to help train Francis Ngannou in the sense of he's used some of our equipment, not me personally ever training him. And it's been great. And it all started from, and we still do it to this day, is anything I do, it's out of love and it's out of respect for either my history, my ancestors, or my environment. And so for every 3 pair we sell, we give a pair away. We've been lucky enough to be one of the largest sponsors in Lagos, Nigeria, for their amateur boxing program. We've helped kids in Malaysia. We put together with some other brands in there's South Sudan. We have a boxing program there, and then obviously states, here in America and in Mexico. So it's been an absolute pleasure. And from that point, people don't even know, at that time, I'm just known for boxing gloves. They don't even know that I even coach. So the fact that, I'm sure you're going to get to it. I don't want to jump ahead, but it was like, I'll wait till you.
No, it's awesome because I didn't know about you because we've always kind of, I would say stay in touch, but I always know like where you're at, in your career and I learned about the boxing thing. And then I remember learning about the gloves, that you did gloves. And I don't know if it was Randy or somebody told me. And it's funny you mentioned those names because I work for, help a MMA fighter out with their nutrition. And they were at a fight, and I remember seeing Max Holloway, the gloves, and I saw the Bryant Boxing.
Really?
And I felt like that meme of Leonardo DiCaprio when he's pointing at the camera. I was like, and I remember like texting the guy I know. I'm like, I was in Iraq with the guy who makes those gloves. I'm sure he doesn't care. But I was like, yeah, like I know that. Like, that's awesome. I couldn't believe. And it was your motto, right? Let me make sure I get this right. Is what is like we're not well known, but we're world known. Is that? And it is kind of funny because. Like, I don't think, like, most people might know a company like Everlast, whatever, you say that, like Bryant Boxing. But for those who watch combat sports, I've seen Daniel Cormier on TV wearing your gloves. And I see it. And so now it's kind of like a game of, like, where's Waldo? Whenever I watch the UFC this weekend, and I, like, look around and, okay.
Yeah, so, we have gloved, I think we have gloved either top 5 or champions in every, not one, but PFL. We have Bubba Jenkins. We work with Bubba Jenkins.
Okay. He used to be MMA, UFC, right? He was on the Ultimate
No,
Fighter.
he used to be Bellator. Now he works in PFL.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a great organization where they give out the $1 million, whatever.
Yeah, Professional Fight League.
So there's also Bellator. We gloved up a champion at 155, and obviously the UFC and stuff like that, and some local shows as well. So it's real cool. Once somebody tagged us in, and they were like, these are the rarest gloves in boxing ever, and they're the absolute best. So and each one of our gloves tell a story. So we try to use historically significant figures that are really close to the African American diaspora, and also outside of African American diaspora to help tell a story. That way, it's really, really cool. The coolest moment I've ever had was I had a dude from Korea contact me, and he was like, "Yeah, I just bought these Mansa Musas. Mansa Musas, argued to be one of the richest people ever lived." And he was like, "I've never heard of this guy before." And so he looks it up. He's like, "What is Mansa Musa?" And then there's all of this information. So it also tells, a story as well. Matter of fact, every glove I make, other than some custom gloves, they all tell a story. And so that's the cool thing about what I get to do. And it's all from passion and love. Yeah. And it is true. It's like somebody was like, "Man, you're not well known, but you're world known, bro." Because there was people out in Korea. There's a couple of fighters in Japan that are wearing my stuff, and then somebody randomly was like, "You're in Japan right now." I said, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Your gloves are on such and such and such." I said, "Yeah, I know." Yeah.
So do you know all the fight, or does it ever take you by surprise? Are you ever like watching a fight or watching a fighter warm up and be like, "Wait, did I recognize those gloves?" Or for the most part, ahead of time, like
no. So it gets now. I can say, unfortunately, but fortunately, it's getting a little bit too big where I can't have a personal relationship with every customer. And so now it's just random, and I'm like, yo, oh, they're using my stuff now. Oh, they're using my stuff. Oh, that's cool. I didn't think about that. So yeah, it's pretty
Very
cool.
very cool. Yeah. So you got the gloves going on, but you're also a pretty good coach, as we've alluded to
Yeah.
previously. So can you talk about like what are you doing now? Because you've got right after this podcast, you're going to Dallas.
Going
Why is
back to
that?
Dallas.
Going back to Dallas.
to help train the best fighters in this new combat league. It's called Team Combat League. And matter of fact, when I got the call to possibly interview for the job, and I was in Thailand trying to learn how to train to deal with kicks. So I was getting currently I have a gym here in San Antonio, and I was getting a lot of MMA fighters. And so even though I kind of did MMA, I didn't do MMA. Right? There's levels to it, and so I was like, man, I'm teaching people how to do boxing and striking, but I was like, man, I don't feel comfortable with some of the stuff I'm teaching you. That's specifically for boxing. So just like in the military, I took TDY. I went 30 days to Thailand, and I went out there to train for about 30 days at Tiger MMA, trying to not learn it and master it, just understand what those coaches are doing, mechanics, and understand like what you shouldn't do. And then they called me up and they were like, hey, we're looking at possibly getting you to be one of the coaches for this new Team Combat League. I was like, I never heard it. They're like, it doesn't exist. So they put together, literally when I'm sitting at this, we had a press conference in Atlanta. We're doing a press release, and I'm looking to my left and right, and I have Hall of Famers. I have Barry Hunter. I have Coach Dewey. Paulie Malignaggi is out there he's doing a speech talking about this, and I'm looking to my left and right, and they're like, these are the best coaches in America. And I was like, yo, that's me.
Wow.
That's good. I'm the least known, but I got this opportunity, and it's simply amazing. It's like this is a new combat league where it's boxing and it's boxing based. It just has a few different criteria. It makes it way more exciting for today's market. So yeah, it's pretty. It's amazing when it hits. It's gonna be big. Anybody. When we had our tryouts in Dallas, they flew out Evander Holyfield to come try out. And by far, that was the most surreal moment when you see Evander Holyfield like, ooh, yeah, and he's screaming. This dude has seen everything. Not only has he seen everything, he's been in some of the, for him to be like, and he's clapping, he's like, yeah, and he's like, I love this. And so, that was really, I knew we were doing something right. And so, I've just been honing my craft and continually trying to learn and get better every day. So, yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of big names because I was following you on Instagram and I was seeing like all the different names. Because I got to ask this question. This is just for me. Other people might not even care, but Freeway Ricky Ross. How's he in Combat League? Is there a backstory to that, or is that just a random?
I can now
the real, not the fake, the real,
the real deal. Freeway Ricky Ross. Listen, so what he did in the past isn't the person he is today.
Right. No,
he is such. He's such a great guy, an amazing guy, and I can honestly say he's my friend. We have each other's number. He calls me all the time. He's like, well, maybe like once or twice a week or whatever. He's like, AC, what do you think about da 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 da? So Ricky is he's into boxing. So once he was able to continue with his life, he got into sports. He's always been big in trying to help.
Right.
And so he was like, he saw a need for treating fighters correctly. He's associated with a lot of big name fighters. That Lamont Peterson. There's another fighter by the name of Kid Austin out of Texas. He trains here in San Antonio. Sometimes he's an up and coming prospect, and he just happened to be friends with a mutual friend of mine named Robert Tapia, who used to be Texas Boxing Commission. We connected, and now he's affiliated with it, not official.
Like an investor.
Well, no, he really enjoys the sport, and he knows that the sport. I'm assuming, I'm talking on his behalf.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he sees that there's nobody in here trying to take money from the fighters. They're trying to help build the fighters, and that's something. It's so new in the combat sports because everybody was, when I was telling them how much. So basically, I have $1 million budget. Six of my fighters are getting $100,000 within 4 months. So that none of these fighters have ever made that much. Another set of my fighters are getting 17,000 in 4 months. They're getting 50,000 in 4 months, and so it's like it's a great amount of money.
Yeah,
and
right.
the fact that there's no one trying to take from them. Anybody who loves and tries to take care of fighters, they're just gonna kind of congregate around other people who are trying to like-minded, and he's very like-minded. He tries to do his best to try to take care of the fighters, and yeah, it's really cool. I had to tell him, like, I'm sitting up there, and some of my friends, one of my really, really good friends is Coach Dewey Cooper, amazing, and I did it with him, and I did it with Ricky, and I just was like, hey, real quick, I just want to let y'all know, I feel like screaming because y'all are like some, to me, superstars who I would have never thought. I used to, read about them and learn about them, and now I'm sitting there next to them, and I got their numbers, and I can call them, and they can call me, and it's just really, really cool. But yeah, that's how I met Ricky. Ricky's a really good guy, really, really good, and he's really good for the sport of boxing. And hopefully, Team Combat League continues, and he can become a major player eventually when he feels like it in Team Combat League.
Yeah, because I mean, you kind of alluded to it, but I mean, boxing. It's been. Is this fair to say? Historically, fighters have kind of been taken advantage of, right? I mean, would you say like?
Oh yeah, one of the hardest things was telling coaches and fighters to try out for this Team Combat League, because the first thing is like, that doesn't make sense. Why are they getting paid this much money for nothing? And that just lets you know how much abuse there's been in boxing, where you tell somebody this, it's really good, and they look at it like, it was like pulling teeth. And some of the coaches are even tell you there's like, they didn't believe it. Even the coaches that are part of the Team Combat League, they didn't believe it, because like, there's no way in the world people are giving out this money and not trying to, back in people. And once they saw it and once they understood the team, there's a great Ahmed and Mark. They're the one of the league owners. They're great people, and they help. They're just all about making sure they take care of the fighters and stuff like that. And it's coming from a place of, like, I wouldn't say love. They just know it's compassion. They're like, we're tired of seeing fighters getting abused and used, and it's like, you know what? There's a better way. Let's try it this way. And so, yeah.
And so that structure, not to get into too much details, because I'm fascinated by this. Is like, so do they have to fight to earn, or are they like salaried? Like when you're on a team, are you like kind of like an NFL player? Oh wow.
Yeah, it's salary.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't even.
That's completely against.
Yeah,
every
so
model.
we're right now in Dallas, and we're doing all our part. We went through these colleges to talk to the Greek life out there, and we're trying to do it. And people are like, what's, and we're in Arlington at our gym, not our gym, but we're in a gym working out as a team. We got our headgear and stuff. People are coming like, what's this? What's this? They're like, have you heard of NFL? They're like, yes. Have you heard of NBA? Yes. Well, managing that for boxing, it's not an individual, it's a team. So me and you are fighting, and literally you win every match, but I happen to lose today. Now we don't make it to the playoffs, so it's like a team concept. There's way more on the stakes than just your reputation. It's the team's reputation. So everybody's got to do their part. And so it's something that has never been done. They've tried to do it in other sports,
right?
But it's never been done like this in boxing, and with the backing, with everybody behind it, all the big name people. So it's going to be something amazing. So
when does that start? Like when will
April
folks go to watch?
April 2nd is when the East Coast starts. And don't quote me on the actual dates, but it's like April 2nd, and they're still trying to get down venues and stuff like that. But within the first week of April, East and West Coast are going to be starting right there.
And then this will be televised?
Pay-per-view and in person for right now. And what they're trying to do is prove concept, because if they can prove concept with the money that they're using, their own money, then hopefully, those bigger promotions like a Showtime, HBO, well, I don't know HBO, but Showtime, DAZN, and ESPN, hopefully they can come back and pick it up. And what they're providing with this is, I don't want to sound like I'm throwing a pitch, but like, they're doing it behind the scenes. It's like a TV show as well. So it's like they're following the fighters. They're understanding what they do. A lot of these fighters are getting it out the mud. Like, what you don't know is that, most fighters, when they make their pro debuts for the next maybe like 3 or 4 years, they're making little to no money, because sometimes in boxing it's a pay to play. So you can be on this big stage, and do you want to fight here? Yes, I do. Then you need to pay to take this slot, and you need to pay for your opponent. So it's not you're making money.
Wow.
And then if you do come in, it's only like $1,000 a round sometimes. At a good, you have to be really good to even make $1,000 a round. Then you have to pay a percentage. You have to go in. You have to pay all these people back, and you don't hear it too much in boxing per se because everybody's so individual. But you hear a lot of it in MMA world where the fighters will be like, I'm broke after this fight because I did not make any money. I need to fight. And so, that it came from a need of trying to fix that narrative. It's like we can put on a great show, entertaining for customers and fans, and pay fighters. They get a salary.
That's huge.
They get a salary, amazing salary. They get free promotion. Like they have a marketing team that's behind these fighters. They have general managers, social media, and they're pushing it. And on top of that, they get 1 year of health insurance, period, which never happens. Most fighters are only insured during the fight. These guys and girls or these fighters are insured during the entire season plus 1 fiscal year. So it's like the 4 months, and then they're insured another whole 8 more months after that. They get a whole year's worth of health insurance, which I would say a good 2/3 of them have never had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm kind of familiar with that, where you're kind of talking about with some of the MMA structure, and the salary is so huge because that's kind of like the NFL and NBA is, if a player can't play,
Mm-hmm.
they can make that call and still feed their family.
Mm-hmm.
What they don't understand, a lot of combat sports, if that fighter doesn't fight,
they're not getting paid.
They're not getting paid. So even if they have mono, even if they have a kidney infection, even though there's so many times that fighters get compromised and still go into that cage, still go into that ring, because they got to keep the lights on.
And from this aspect, even I fought in the amateurs. I was 9-1 as a boxing amateur, and you don't understand that part because to me it was all not for fun, but it's all out of convenience. But when you're fighting to feed your family, I sit back now and I look back when fighters are like, yeah, my shoulder, like Manny Pacquiao was saying, my shoulder was messed up, but I fought. Or certain fighters come in, yeah, my hands was messed up, or I had a knee injury, whatever, that I still fought. And I used to be like, why would you do that?
Yeah, right.
But now, now I understand. It's like they're doing it because they have to feed their family. So they're gonna like, you know what? I don't care as long as I can put these gloves on and move around, even if I get beat up, I'm still gonna get paid. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that really changes the dynamic. No, that's awesome. Can you talk a little bit about just the team concept? So how, like, weight classes, like how does that team structure look like?
So there's 6 weight classes. There's a female 126. There's a lightweight, welterweight, and I'll just go in the numbers. So
okay.
there's a lightweight, which is 135. There's a welterweight at 147, middleweight 160, light heavyweight 175, and then heavyweight 200 plus, 201 plus. And those are similar to the traditional weight classes. And there's 3 people in there's 3 people in each weight class. And you just go in there, so it's like it's Team Bryant gets Team Behringer, and we go in there, we fight, and you don't know who I'm going to put in, and I don't know who you're going to put in. So I go in first, and I put in my heavyweight. You have so many minutes to put in the heavyweight. The next round, you have to put in. So we have 2 halves. So there's a 12 round one half, and then there's a halftime, and then there's another 12 rounds. So there's 2 halves, and then we're going back and forth, and it's strategic. When people say boxing is like chess, not checkers, it really is, because there's a limit on how many times I can put a person in on any given half. They can't go more than these many rounds even throughout the game. Throughout the competition, and you get points for knockdowns. You get the maximum points for knockouts. You get points for winning. So if you just win, you get 3 points. But if you knock somebody down and win, you get 4 points. So in a sense, we could be fighting, and our team is going against each other, and this is for a playoff spot. If I'm down by 4 points, if my guy goes in there and only wins,
right? Yeah,
it's like it's like you're down by you're down by 3 points and you're up on the line to shoot 2 free throws. You're like, you better miss one of those. What are you doing? Right? And so it's like you got to put people in there. He's like, and you know that too. And you're like, hey, you move around, don't get knocked out. And my guys are like, you got to go for a knockout because if we just win, it doesn't do us any good. So there comes the strategy with putting certain people in place. And yeah, it's really, really cool. I think it's going to be something. At first, it was international, but hopefully we did have a team in Mexico. But logistically, I guess it was just too much for the first season. And, as far as like paperwork as well, all the bureaucracy and red tape. But hopefully by season 3, they want to make this similar to soccer, where Europe has a league, Asia has a league, Middle East, Africa, and all over. And at the end, we take the best of the best, and then we have like this,
like
a
World
Cup or a world match or something like that, where you can find out who's the best team in boxing. Period. So the potential is to be something that's life changing. So yeah, that's really cool, and I'm glad I'm a part of it. Yeah.
And then, kind of last thing about it is the teams. So you have the Dallas and Fort. They couldn't get some like San Antonio Snakes or anything. No, but
San Antonio has a team.
We have.
Yeah, they're called the San Antonio Snipers.
Snipers, man. I see.
San Antonio Snipers.
Hey, we went to alliteration.
The Hall of Fame coach Willie Hall, which used to be one of my mentors. When I used to coach, when I first entered 2014, when I was working with that guy, he was working at the historical San Fernando boxing gym that's ran by the only San Antonio city run gym. It's made a lot of people. It was Joe Sousa, Turo Gotti. A lot of people went through there and worked there, and so it's really cool. But Coach Willie Hall, he used to be the head coach for the Breckenridge High School team for like the last decade, and he's also been inducted into the New Mexico Hall of Fame for boxing. So he's amazing. But he's running that show here in San Antonio. Matter of fact, I'm gonna remind myself to go down there and talk some mess to him and his team. But it's all out of love, yeah. So
you have San Antonio has a team, Dallas has a team.
Yeah, let me go through the team. So you got the New York, New York Attitude, the Philly Smoke. You have the DC Destroyers. You have the Atlanta Attack. And then for the West Coast, that's the East Coast teams. And then the West Coast, you obviously have the Dallas Enforcers, which will be the first Team Combat League winners.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
Dallas Enforcers.
Dallas Enforcers. Then you have the San Antonio Snipers. You have the Las Vegas Hustle. And then you have the LA Terminators. I think they're called the Terminators, something like that. Yeah, so it's 8 teams across America. And every coach, other than, has a big name behind it, and so it's really, really going to be amazing. Every week there's competition. So the cool thing about it is the fighters only do at a maximum 2 rounds spread out through 2 halves, and so there comes you may never face the same person on the team, and we only meet twice. You may never meet that same person again. So when you think you're training to face me, you really could be facing, one of these other people right here. So it's like you have to be random and ready for anything. It's really supposed to be, you're the tip of the spear in this. You have got to learn how to move, shoot, and communicate at a fast pace. You have to limit as much as possible. You have to focus on what is efficient and what is fast, and not what is flashy and what's going to be drawn out. Because we had fighters who were very well known in boxing. They had a very good record, 20 plus fights. They fought for WBO, WBC fights, and they got eliminated by amateurs because it's not that type of format. And so like at this type of format, it doesn't matter how good they are in boxing, in the traditional boxing sense. It's like, can you do this at a high pace and not mess up? So we'll see. We will see.
Wow. So as a dietitian, I have to ask this, talking to a nutritionist, what's the weight? Is everybody cutting weight, or is most people at weight? Because when do you guys weigh in? Is it like MMA 24 hours out?
No. So this is another catch. So the team is trying to take care of people. What is our brain is? Was it 70% water in our body? I don't know. Maybe whatever the ratio is. Right. We're majority water. Right. We're a water bag. So when fighters normally go in, they'll drain themselves all the way down, it looks good on TV, but their body is probably going through, going through the ringer. So they try to hydrate, and as you know, you can't just rehydrate and then be normal. It takes a little
Right.
while for everything to and so no, there is no cutting. You have to make weight every day. So I mean, not every day, every week, and you fight the same day you weigh.
Wow.
So
yeah, you got to be on weight. That's
so
got to be your walk
similar
around weight.
to one
Yeah.
in the organization in
Yep.
East Asia, where like people just, so all it is they just move up to a more comfortable weight class. They're going to cut maybe 2 or 3 pounds,
Right.
but that's not that bad of a deal of like cutting 10 and 15. So normally a welterweight will walk around like 170, like a big one will walk around 170, and to cut down to 147, that's a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And so they try to help eliminate that. So you fight the same day you weigh, and similar to wrestling, and it's you have to make that weight 12 weeks, possibly 12 weeks in a row.
Okay.
Yeah, nutrition
that's
is a big important factor in this, and that's why I'm glad to be here talking to you, because a lot of these fighters have never had the opportunity to just understand, like, just because you can cut weight, you can cut 10 pounds in a day. That's not healthy.
That doesn't mean you should.
Doesn't mean you should. And the type of nutrition and training you have to do, you have to be more powerful. This can't be a fat camp where you're trying to lose weight. It's like, we got to build muscle, and you got to do that the right way. I'm talking to a fighter right now on my team, and he's like, Coach, I can lose weight, whatever it is. And I was like, listen, I understand you can. I need you to do this because I need to peel those pounds off slowly. We have about 8 weeks until the season starts. I'd rather walk you down instead of you just dropping, because I need you to train during the week.
Yeah.
If you're drained, you're not going to be able to train, and then this training is harder than what you're normally doing anyways. In a sense, it's not harder, it's just way different. It just needs way more out of you. So, yeah, hopefully they'll be able to get it. Yeah, I know they will.
No, I mean, that's really important, and you bring up some great important points. Is like, yeah, you don't have time to rehydrate. I like that model, because then, yeah, you don't have those extreme weight cuts that people will try with the 24-hour, if you have 24 hours to recover.
And correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
right? Your brain is majority water.
There's
right?
a lot of fluid in there,
So there's a lot of fluid in there. And so when you're getting hit, if there's no fluid up there, if there's less fluid than necessary.
Not good.
And you're hitting your head against your even if it's a slight move, it's not meant to do that. So you're already going against the grain by punching people in the face and taking a hit, right? And so now it probably won't eliminate all those type of injuries, but it should help mitigate a lot of them. So it's like now it's like, you get hit, and normally you would have a concussion, but maybe not so much now,
Yeah, definitely being dehydrated and fighting is a bad combination, and so this will be much better. I think you're gonna have less injuries statistically. You're gonna have healthier fighters, and less fighters getting sick, because as you know, like weight cuts, that's the other big thing you'll see. Like people who normally don't catch colds will start catching colds. They start get a bug because you're so depleted. So no, that makes my dietitian heart happy to hear that they're actually going to be fueled for these fights. So that's exciting. So April, that's when people should be on the lookout. Is there any place people should be following for this upcoming fight?
Yeah,
league?
Teen Combat League on Instagram or social media, or teencombatleague.com for sure. Make sure you can follow all those teams. For sure, make sure the number one is Dallas Enforcers, and information will be put out soon. And the reason why I like the league is they're trying to think outside the box. Sometimes you don't need to be thinking outside the box. You just not to reinvent the wheel. I learned that a lot in the military. But sometimes you need to be able to think outside the box. So what they're doing, instead of doing normal promotions, they're doing a grassroots approach where they're like, instead of us paying for commercial time, how about we pay the local person who promotes us the local time, this money? And I was like, what do you mean? They were like, well, they're going to get a percentage of all ticket sales, and at the end of this season, whoever sells the most is going to get at a minimum $250,000, and that's in 12 weeks. And their pockets are pretty deep, and they're pretty legit, so it's going to be really, really good.
No, this is exciting. I love it because supporting a fellow veteran. Get out there, and thanks for coming on the podcast and sharing all this information with the group. I know I'm going to be following it. I'm going to be pulling for the Dallas Enforcers. Obviously, I might be a little bit biased. But AC, thanks so much for coming on the show and sharing your Army story with us.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's an absolute honor, brother, to see you growing not growing, but to see you as successful as you are and see where you're at. I'm not surprised. You were the PAO, and I just assumed that you would be able to continue doing this stuff. I remember meeting you in Iraq and how adamant you were about everything. And even though you had a different job, you would still come back and you were like, hey, blah, 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 let's do this. And I was like, yo, listen, you're one of the good ones. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you do for our country, for our service members, and thank you for just being probably a level-headed person in a very weird type of situation. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.